see. New set of downs for San Diego. Play action. Rivers throwing up top, looping to Gates. Antonio Gates is gone. Touchdown, San Diego.
Phillip Rivers has almost single-handedly carried the Chargers this season. He leads the league in yards with 2,944 and in touchdowns with 19 in just 9 games. And still, the Chargers have a record of just 4-5. Former Charger safety Darren Carrington is here now, and it's not the record we expected, Darren, but they seem to be showing some signs of life at least.
Yes, you know what? With the record they have, Phillip Rivers is clearly having an MVP season, but teams are going to start making it tougher. They have to have some semblance of a running game, at least a threat. If they don't have a threat, teams will start going nickel and dime, and they'll make it really, really difficult. But we know, Troy, that the big thing is he's got to win the big one, right?
Yeah.
We can have the great MVP season, but it goes back to, man, I would bet that he would trade all of that to win the big one.
Absolutely. That means the Chargers need to change some things. We compiled a list of 5 things that have affected the season. The obvious glaring weakness, special teams. They've had 5 punts blocked, 1 shy of the NFL record, given up 2 kick returns for touchdowns and a punt return for a touchdown. They rank second to last in opponents' kickoff return yardage and dead last in opponents' punt return yardage. Coach Carrington, how do they fix this?
Well, you know, there's a couple of things. The first thing I feel like is they need to go back to the basics, almost like training camp, because something is not working. The second thing is they may have to find some players that can get it done. Obviously, it's not all coaching. It's some of it has to do with the players. And the third, the coach has to sit back and really check the scheme. You have 4 or 5 punts blocked. Maybe somebody sees something in your scheme that's just not working.
Another place they've had problems is turnovers. They've turned the ball over 21 times. They're -9 in turnover differential. How do you stop that?
You know what? Again, Troy, I know I'm going to be redundant, but this is mid-season. You got to go back to the base. You got to drill it. You got to talk about it. It has to be intentional. When guys in practice, they got to cover the ball. On defense, they got to practice strip, because to go deep into the playoffs, you've got to flip that turnover ratio around.
And one of the players who's had trouble holding on to the football, rookie running back Ryan Matthews, he has more fumbles lost 3 than touchdowns 2. He's also been plagued by injuries. You mentioned they had to get a running game going if they wanted to go deep. So how do they get him going?
You know what? There's a couple of million reasons why they need to believe in that kid. And they got to sit down with him. They got to look him in the eye, and they got to say, Ryan, we believe in you. And when you get out there, and if he does fumble again, you got to leave him in the game. You got to let him play through it because, again, he's a rookie, and you've invested a lot in him to be long-term.
As for the defense, at one time the Chargers led the league in defense, but their pass defense the last couple of weeks has raised some red flags, allowing 305 yards against Tennessee, 252 yards to Houston. They got to improve that because they have the pass-happy Broncos with Kyle Orton, who threw 4 touchdown passes today. And then they go to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. What do they do here on pass defense? What's the key here?
They got to get the heat. They got to get to the quarterback. No matter who you have back there, you can have Superman, Batman, Captain America, but if you don't get heat in a quarterback in this league is going to find the open man.
And coming into the day, they had 27 sacks, tied with the Raiders for most in the AFC, but just 2 in the last 2 weeks. And I'm not sure how you can change the injuries the Chargers have had, but perhaps the fact that they've used a ton of different players on their active roster this season has something to do with all the suffering we just talked about. How much better is this team going to be when all these healthy players come back?
Right. When you step back and you look at the big picture of it, you can't be too disappointed in 4-5. I know you want to be great, but with all the injuries they have, with where they are, and to be 1 game out of first place, knowing that you're getting all these players back, I think teams better be looking out for the Chargers because I think they're going to turn up the heat in November and December.
So after all that, you came up with these midterm grades, and here they are. Offense A-, defense B-, special teams, you actually put F-, but I think our graphics guy was being kind, and coaching C+. So I think one thing we haven't talked about is really the coaching, the C+. What do you think of the job that obviously C+ means that they've been average at best?
Yeah, I do think it's been average just because of where they are in regards to season. Special teams, you've got to find a way to turn some things around. If you know there's Achilles heel on your team, you got to figure out, man, how do I turn this thing around? Defensively, maybe some different schemes, as far as the sacks. Things are going well, then they kind of fell back. Turnover ratio, that can't be good. You've got to drill it as coaches. And then offense, that's where their grade boosts up because the offense is playing exceptional.
And around the league, the hot topic going on right now, the new crackdown on hard hits. As a former defensive back in the league, what do you think about this new crackdown, fines, suspensions, etc.?
Hollering the offense, right? I mean, you know what? Some of it I understand they got to protect, but a lot of it is, man, these guys are making split-second decisions. There's no way that you can make a split-second decision, turn your head, hit with your shoulder, do all these different things that this league is really asking. And Troy, the offense sometimes hits guys as hard as the defense, but have you ever seen an offensive player get a flag for stiff arming or lowering his head on a guy too hard? No.
That would be embarrassing for the defensive player, wouldn't it? Don't you think? I mean, that's probably why you're not seeing that. That'd be pretty embarrassing. Well, it was another crazy week in the NFL. We've got a look around the NFL coming up. Plus, we got a team that we found out there at Steel Canyon High School, and the We Are Family is more than just a slogan. 3 father-son pairs coach and play for the Cougars. How they all came together when Game On rolls on. And Darren, you get to coach your son over at Horizon High School, and all these coaches talked about how great it is, but what kind of challenges do you face as a dad coaching your son?
I would say the biggest challenge probably is to cut it off. When do you cut it off? Once if he didn't have a good practice, do you cut him off? Cut it off in the car because you continue to coach. He gets home, son, you're not having any dinner. Go to bed. So it's probably that thing, and then that differential between your son is. Are you player? I mean, are you coach? Are you dad? Like, what do I call you? Sometimes my son just calls me Coach Dad. Mm-hmm. So, but that would probably be the biggest challenge of being able to cut it off after practice and almost clicking back on, okay, now I'm dad, I'm not coach.
But an experience you wouldn't give up, huh?
Not for anything in the world.
And Horizon's pretty good, too. The number 2 seed in Division 5, 8-2 record. Congratulations to the Panthers. We'll be back with more Game On right after this. Stay with us. A lot to talk about, and thanks to Legadoo Nane and Darren Carrington, Ron Donahoe for stopping by. We will be back here tonight at 10:45 for Game On, and of course Fox 5 News at 10. Until then, keep the game on, San Diego. Have a great evening.